The moment Kira Venn walked into the Galactic Combat Academy, I knew we were doomed. Not because she looked dangerous. Oh no, because she looked like she'd wandered in from a planetary garden party, clutching her datapad like it might explode if she squeezed too hard. Her hair was tied back in some messy knot that defied military regulation, and she actually smiled at the drill instructor. Smiled at Gunnery Sergeant Thrax, whose third I had literally melted cadets with disappointment. Another human, my bunkmate Jorvok muttered, his purple scales rippling with what I assumed was second-hand embarrassment. Why do they keep sending these soft skins? I didn't answer, mostly because he was right. Humans had joined the Galactic Federation 3 cycles ago, and their military contributions had been, shall we say, underwhelming. They tired easily. They needed specific atmospheric conditions. They couldn't even see in proper darkness without artificial enhancement. The galaxy had welcomed them diplomatically, sure, but in combat? They were considered adequate at paperwork and absolutely stellar at making bizarre beverages nobody asked for. Kira Venn was assigned to Squad Theta. My squad. Fantastic. Cadet Venn, Sergeant Thrax boomed, all 3 eyes focusing on her like targeting lasers. Your species has a saying. Do not mess up. I suggest you follow it. Yes, sir. She actually sounded cheerful. Jorvok made a choking sound. The first week was exactly what you'd expect. During atmospheric combat simulation, Kira's oxygen mix got contaminated, and she spent 2 hours in medical. In zero-gravity maneuvering, she spun herself into a wall so hard that 3 instructors had to sign incident reports. The hand-to-hand combat sessions? Let's just say that watching a human try to grapple a Kraven warrior who outweighed her by 200 kilos was like watching a planet try to fight a moon. Gravity always wins. But here's the weird thing. She never quit. Never complained. Just kept showing up with that ridiculous smile, taking notes like her life depended on it, asking questions that made the instructors pause and actually think. Why do we always breach from the left? She asked during tactical training. Because the standard defensive formation assumes right-side dominance. Instructor Kelmar replied, looking annoyed at having to explain basics. But what if we're fighting humans? We're left-hand dominant as a species. Silence. Because nobody had considered fighting humans. Why would you prepare for combat against someone who could barely survive it? The combat evaluations started in week 4. Standard stuff. Simulated firefights, tactical puzzles, stress scenarios designed to break you down into your base components and see what you were actually made of. The leaderboard went up in the common area, and surprise, surprise, Kira Venn was dead last. Below, even the Quellan cadet who'd accidentally shot himself during weapons training. 23% accuracy, Jorvok read aloud, his voice dripping with that special contempt only military academies can cultivate. 41 seconds slower than minimum acceptable time on the breach course. Threat assessment score of, oh wow, 15 out of 100. Kira walked past us to check her scores. She studied them for exactly 4 seconds, nodded once, and walked away. Doesn't she care? I asked nobody in particular. Humans don't have proper shame receptors, Jorvok said confidently, which was definitely not true, but I let it slide. Week 6 brought the individual combat scenarios. Holographic environments, live ammunition pain simulators, adaptive AI opponents that learned your patterns and exploited them. This was where cadets either proved themselves or washed out. There was no middle ground. I went on day 1. Scored 78%. Solid. Respectable. Jorvok hit 81 and wouldn't shut up about it for 3 meals straight. Kira was scheduled for day 3. The viewing gallery was packed because, well, everyone loves watching a disaster. It's like a biological constant across species. Someone's about to fail spectacularly, and suddenly we all have front row seats and popcorn. Or the Quellan equivalent, which is actually fermented moss, but you get the idea. The scenario loaded. Urban environment. 12 hostile targets. Civilian complications. Standard difficulty that usually took cadets 8 to 10 minutes to clear if they were competent. Kira spawned in, checked her weapon, and immediately did something nobody expected. She went backwards. What is she doing? Someone whispered. Instead of pushing forward into the kill zone like every tactical manual ever written suggested, she retreated into a building, climbed to the 3rd floor, and waited. She's freezing up, Jorvok said with absolute certainty. Panic response. But her hands weren't shaking. Her breathing was steady, and her eyes were moving, calculating, watching the street below through a cracked window. The AI enemies advanced, searching for her, following their programming. And that's when Kira Venn stopped being a joke. She moved. Not like we'd been trained. Not with the standard aggressive push that every military academy from here to the outer rim taught as gospel. She moved like physics had personally offended her, and she was here to file a complaint. The first target went down before it even registered her position. Headshot. Clean. The second and third were scanning the wrong floor when she dropped them through the window. Double tap. Professional. Lucky shots, someone muttered in the gallery. Then Kira did something that made Instructor Kelmar lean forward in his seat. She used the civilian holograms. See, the AI civilians were programmed to run predictably, to create chaos and moral complications. Every cadet learned to work around them, to clear sight lines and minimize collateral damage while staying focused on threats. Kira weaponized them. She moved with the civilian patterns, using their panic as cover, forcing the AI enemies to hesitate for those critical half-seconds of target identification. When the hostiles tried to flank, she'd already rotated, using building corners and debris like she'd grown up in urban warfare. Which, according to her file, she absolutely had not. She was from some peaceful farming region called Iowa. 4 minutes in, 8 targets down, 0 hits taken. The gallery had gone completely silent. She's reading the AI pattern, Kelmar said quietly. She's predicting the adaptive response. Impossible, Jorvok whispered. The AI learns. It doesn't repeat. It doesn't repeat tactics, I heard myself say. But it has to follow certain rules. Threat priority. Cover preferences. Response timing. I watched Kira slide under a damaged vehicle, pop up behind a hostile, and eliminate it with brutal efficiency. She's not fighting the AI. She's fighting the programming. Target 9 went down. Then 10. Kira's ammunition counter hit red. She dropped her primary weapon, grabbed a sidearm from a eliminated hostile hologram, checked the charge in one fluid motion, and kept moving. 11 down. The final target was the scenario boss. Heavily armored. Adaptive shields. Positioned in a defensive strongpoint that forced a frontal assault. This was the part where most cadets either took heavy damage or burned through their remaining time trying to find a clever angle. Kira looked at it for maybe 3 seconds. Then she shot out the building's support column. Not the enemy. The building. The structure groaned, tilted, and the scenario boss had exactly 1.4 seconds to register that gravity was no longer a suggestion before several tons of simulated concrete ended the debate. Target eliminated. Scenario complete. Time elapsed. For minutes, 18 seconds. Accuracy, 97%. Threat assessment, perfect score. The gallery exploded. Not with cheers exactly, but with that specific kind of shocked noise that sentient beings make when reality has just contradicted everything they thought they knew. Glitch, Jorvok said desperately. Has to be a system glitch. Instructor Kelmar was already pulling up the combat replay, his facial tendrils twitching with what I'd learned to recognize as intense focus. No glitch. Look at the decision tree. Every move was intentional. She baited the AI into predictable responses, conserved ammunition, used environmental factors. He paused the replay on Kira's face, zoomed in on her eyes. She wasn't scared. She was calculating. Sergeant Thrax stood up, all 3 eyes locked on the screen. Run her scenario again. Maximum difficulty. Randomized parameters. Sir, maximum difficulty is designed for 4th-year cadets with full combat certification. Did I stutter in a language you suddenly cannot comprehend, instructor? 20 minutes later, Kira was back in the simulator. She didn't ask why, didn't complain about the breach of protocol, just checked her gear and nodded that she was ready. Maximum difficulty loaded. 18 targets instead of 12. Environmental hazards. Reduced ammunition. Hostile civilians mixed with friendlies. Time limit cut in half. Kira spawned in, assessed for exactly 2 seconds, and smiled. That should have been our first warning. She cleared it in 6 minutes, 4 seconds. 94% accuracy. Only took damage once, and that was from falling debris she used to eliminate 3 targets simultaneously. The leaderboard updated automatically. Kira Venn's name shot up like it had been fired from a railgun, blasting past every other cadet, settling into a position that made my stomach drop. Second place. Academy-wide. Only beaten by a 5th-year Kira Venn honor student who'd been training since he could walk. Okay, I said into the stunned silence. So maybe humans are not exactly what we thought. Jorvok's scales had gone pale purple. This doesn't make sense. Her physical scores are still bottom tier. Her academic rankings are average. How does someone who can barely complete the obstacle course fight like that? Kira exited the simulator, looking slightly tired but otherwise fine. Sergeant Thrax was waiting for her. Cadet Venn. My office. Now, we didn't hear what was said, but 30 minutes later, Kira came back to the barracks, and Jorvok immediately confronted her. How? He demanded. Your preliminary scores were garbage. You failed basic navigation. You couldn't even assemble your weapon in regulation time. Kira sat on her bunk, started unlacing her boots. Yeah, because I was learning. Learning what? How you all think. She looked up, and there was something sharp in those green eyes that I'd completely missed before. You trained for perfection. Every move optimized. Every scenario practiced until it's muscle memory. That's great for standardized combat. But real fights aren't standardized. And you know real fights? Jorvok's voice dripped skepticism. No, Kira admitted. But I know adaptation. I know improvisation. You all keep trying to be better soldiers. She smiled, and it was not particularly comforting. I'm trying to survive. Instructor Kelmar appeared in the doorway. Cadet Venn, you have been selected for advanced tactical training. Report to Section 7 at 0600. After he left, someone finally asked the question we were all thinking. What's Section 7? I knew. I'd heard rumors. It's where they train the operatives who don't exist. The ones they send when conventional military can't solve the problem. Kira finished with her boots, lay back on her bunk. Get some sleep, everyone, she said quietly. Big day tomorrow. And just like that, the human cadet who'd been a joke became the person nobody wanted to fight. Funny how quickly perspectives can change when someone stops playing by your rules and starts writing their own. So what did you think? Did this story surprise you? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this sci-fi story, please hit the like button. It really helps the channel grow. And don't forget to subscribe for more mind-blowing science fiction stories every week. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next story.